I bought this new about 10 or 12 years ago, and it's a pretty good sized compressor. And I'll show you the stats on this. You can just kind of take a look at that. So it'll put out a good amount of air. Looks like it's what, just under 2 horsepower. It's direct drive. It works really well. It has a little bit of trouble keeping up with grinders and cutoff wheels, things like that. So I think it's time to do an upgrade. Now my old compressor is pretty loud when I run it. Let me just show you. So now we get a bigger compressor in here, and I'm not sure what that's going to sound like, but let's give that a try and you can listen for yourself. Okay, big surprise. I thought this thing being much larger was going to make a lot more noise. It's actually really quiet. Let's do a quick walk around. There's a couple of things I want to do with this. First is just clean it up. It's a little bit grimy. I don't know if I want to paint it. It's kind of cool the way it's got its original markings, and I kind of want to leave that. So I don't think I want to get too crazy with this. A couple of things I need to do after that. I have to put some sort of legs on this thing. I'll probably just do something like what you see there. I'll probably put some 4x4s on, just get it up off the ground. And part of that is so that my drain valve has got room to operate. Here's the drain valve. It was broken. I think it had been set down and a little bit too close to the floor, and this got snapped off. So I'll buy a new ball valve and put that back together. Now, one of the reasons that this thing was so cheap is that it's got a leak. And if you just take a listen right now, you can hear the leak. I did a bit of looking, and I've already circled this, but it's got an air leak right down here. So I'll clean that up and weld that. Hopefully that'll last for a long time. If it doesn't, you know, at some point I could replace the air tank. I don't know the age of this thing, but it's made by the United States Air Compressor Company. It's just the lettering on it looks pretty old. I'll do a little bit of research. If anybody else has got experience with this, let me know in the comments. The pump on it is an Ingersoll Rand Type 30 V235. Now, I'm not sure if this is a single or two-stage. The research I've done so far makes me think it's a two-stage, but I'm really not sure on that yet. I just have to get this thing put together now, get it fixed up, and the next big task is going to be to get it off the trailer. I can slide it and take it right down the tailgate, and I'll either put it right where the old one was. It'll probably stick a little bit past the wall, or maybe I'll locate it right around the corner here. Haven't decided that yet. before I started welding on the tank, thought I'd go online and see if I could get some pointers. So I went out to some different sites, looked at a number of posts on Garage Journal, and it seemed like the overwhelming sentiment was do not weld the pinholes up on an air compressor tank. They said it actually can be dangerous in that if it will continue to fail, but it could fire that weld back out. So rather than trying to recover this tank, what I'm going to do is go out and find another one. Maybe find another compressor with a failed pump or a failed motor and see if I can pick up the tank and then switch parts over. So I'll run out and see what I can find. Well, I did find one. I found a compressor, same size, on an auction site, and it went really cheap. I was able to pick it up and bring it back, and actually it looks like everything is there on this one. So I will test this one out, put it together, and see what I can do with it. Do a quick walk around. This looks to be about a 60-gallon tank on here. This thing's pretty old. Take a look at the label here real quick. American Brake Shoe Company, Kellogg Division. And I don't know if you can read that, but it says B321C. So this company is still in business. I think they go by Kellogg air compressors now, and they do have a 321 version. I'm not sure if the specs on this are the same as their current model. From what I've read, this is supposed to be a 2-stage. So I'm hoping that's the case with this one right here. And then there is a massive electric motor on this thing. It's a 2-horse single phase, so it'll plug right into my outlet here. Pretty tough to read this. All right, so I think what I'll do here is get it wired up. Looks like it was hardwired in wherever it came from, and I intend to put a plug in so I can plug it into the wall. So let's get started on that. All right, there's our leads coming in. This is the pressure switch. I'm looking for a ground. I don't see a ground on here right now. Let me get this wire out of the way first. Okay, I see 2 wires leading to the motor, but I don't see a ground. The I'm going to need a wiring diagram for this one. So I found out that the motor grounds to the frame, so I just need to put a ground right onto this frame and that'll connect up. All right, let's give it a shot, see if it blows up. So let's get a quick connector on here. This one doesn't appear to have a pressure regulator, so I'll have to add one of those. But I can at least test it out here right now the way it stands. All right, let's build some pressure. We'll start it out just at 30 pounds. I'm just listening for air leaks. I don't hear anything. Okay, looks like it shuts off right around 135. So I'm just going to leave it here for a while and see if it holds air. I'll come back and check it later. All right, it's been about 20 minutes. And it looks like we've dropped about, I suppose, a little more than 10 pounds. So I took some soapy water, and it looks like the fitting I just put on there has got a little bit of a leak to it. So I'll take care of that. But one of the things I wanted to look at while I had soapy water was to look at the tank, give me a clue as to the age of this thing, because they always will put a year built on these tanks. I don't know if you can read that. Year built 1949. So that's over a 70-year-old compressor, and I'm going to guess that all this stuff came together. It all looks pretty well matched. So you're looking at a 1949 relic, and it actually works really good right now. A couple of things I noticed on this that I've never seen before on an electric motor, but it's got grease zerks at each end. So I put a little grease in there, and then the compressor itself has got a little, I don't know what you call that, but a little bucket there that you can put oil in, and there's a little wire mesh up inside there, I suppose, to soak in the oil, and that keeps that shaft oiled. So that's pretty old technology, but seems to work pretty well. So now I just need to decide where I'm going to put this. A couple of options I'm considering. One is just right where the old one was, and it's a little wider than this wall, so it would stick out a little bit, but it's not really a problem. The other thing I could do is maybe locate it around the corner against this wall, but I don't really want to eat up that space. So I'm kind of thinking I'll drag it in here. It's the next morning, and it looks like we're down to about 100 pounds. So that's not too bad with this fitting leaking right here. I don't think there are any other leaks, or this thing would be way down. So let's fix that one first. So I need a regulator. Let's take a look. I've got this old regulator and it wasn't working. What I was seeing is that no matter what I did with the adjustment, it always stayed at full pressure. So let's take this thing apart. I could just move this thing up and down and it didn't have any effect. So let's pull this apart and see what's inside. I've never had one of these apart before. Okay, this plunger just applies pressure to the spring here. So far, everything is intact. Kind of wondering about this diaphragm. It seems like it's in decent shape. I wonder if, let's see, that spring applies pressure to the center of this. I'm not so sure about this piece, whether this is supposed to move or what. Well, let's get this bottom piece off. I think I might just thread a piece of pipe into here. So I get some leverage. I'm using just a pipe. I've got extra pipes for my pipe clamps for different lengths. So this is kind of handy to have here. Let's see if, oh yeah, there it goes. It's not bad. That didn't take much. See what's underneath here. I was looking through the end here and it looked kind of cruddy in there, so I'm just wondering if I've just got some rust or debris that's just sort of seizing this thing up. Looks like an aluminum body. There we go. Huh. All right, let me get a closer look at this and we'll come back. All right, I pulled this plunger out of the center. It looks like it's had some moisture underneath there. I wonder if this was sort of frozen in place and it was supposed to move up and down. I'm going to clean this up. Try to get a better look at this. It looks like there's maybe some sort of an O-ring on there. It's kind of a tiny one, but so I'll clean this up and put it back together and see if it works. All right, I got everything cleaned up that I'm going to clean up, and let's start getting this back together. Just to show you, I think this little piston was stuck in here and wasn't moving, and that's why I wasn't changing pressure, and I think it was set at basically full. Let me get a little bit of wire in there, make sure that passage is clear. So we're good. So I'll put a little bit of grease in here. This has got a little bit of pitting in there, but hopefully that'll be fine. I'm just going to keep the old O-ring on it. but you can see it moves. So we'll grease that up and start reassembling this thing. Oh, I missed this. I get spring in there. There. That's how it goes. All right. So let's get everything back together in the right sequence. So this goes in here. So we'll get this on first. Run this. Oh, I'll get a little bit of grease on this O-ring too. I don't have an O-ring that size. That one looks to be decent, but we might as well help it out. Okay, we'll snug that down in a minute. That moves. That was not moving before. So I think that was the problem. Get a little dab of grease on there. It's funny, this does not have any sort of a gasket. I cleaned up the threads on this valve control. All right, let's go put it on. So anybody notice anything missing? Should have been a clue when I said no gasket. Okay, I think that's how it goes. I'm going to take a chance and reassemble it just like this. And then I'll go back and check my video from the disassembly. See how good my memory is. All right, now let's go put it on. So we got everything laid out here with all my fittings. So let's just start putting it together. So I don't know which way this goes. So I'm gonna put it somewhere in the middle. And let's fire this up and get some pressure on there. So we're just over 120 pounds in the tank right now. And my pressure regulator, I've got this down to probably just below 60. And it stays there. And let's raise it up. So I can just crank it in. I'd like it at about 90 pounds. And about there is where I want it. So that'll hold at 90 pounds. So it looks good. Regulator's working. So I want to clean this up and tighten the belt. So I'll start by pulling this cover off. So let's take this from empty to full. I'm going to start a stopwatch here so we can see how long that takes. Okay, there we are. Just a little over 6.5 minutes. All right, I think for now I'm done with this. You can see I put some nice big timbers on there for feet and got my drain valve installed. This is an old compressor with a ridiculously large motor that works great. So I've got one quick connect right here to get me out to anything in the garage I need. I put a T in and brought this around, and this line comes up and goes through the wall. Comes out in the workshop to another quick connect. And up to a hose reel, and this will get me just about anywhere I need to be in the workshop. Okay, I think this will work for now. It is a little on the noisy side, and I see this wheel seems to have just a hair bit of play, and I kind of hear it. But it seems to be working good, so that's the pump I'll go with for now. And the other thing I did is put another T down here and just capped it off. And my thought on that is I may eventually run an air line up here, over, and maybe out by the garage door there, and put a reel up there to make it a little bit easier. So that's to come. Now, after I'm all done with this, I'm left with my other pump and a 2-horse motor. And I know this is a good running pump. And I could sell that, try to recoup some of the money that I spent to buy that other compressor setup. But I think for now I'm just going to hang on to this as a spare and consider moving it over onto this tank, because this one is really quiet. But I may move it onto this tank. We'll just see how this goes. And that motor, I'll probably sell that. That's a good 2-horse motor, and I think I could get some money for it. So now we're left with this tank. What to do with the tank? It's pretty heavy. I think I could probably scrap it out. That's one option. But I don't know. There's probably other things I could do with it. I could give it away. I could try to make it into something else. If you have any ideas, drop them in the comments. I'd be open to hearing that. So that's about it right now for the compressor. I'm sure I'll be doing some mods and possibly some upgrades in the future. But that's it, and I'll see you on the next project.